Welcome back from the coffee break, and we just can't let go already of business. Business has a huge responsibility for this issue, so we will have another panel on the business people. We will give you some concrete examples of what is being done on how to reduce, reuse, and recycle plastic in the value chain. We've resettled a bit here on stage, so please welcome up the quartet. I'll call them one by one. Günther Lehner, who's CEO and President of APLA Group. Welcome. We'll give him a big round of applause. Welcome, Günther. Have a seat. Sayegh, who is Vice President, Global Supply and GoToMarket Operations at Procter & Gamble. Welcome. And Anders Jacobson, who's President of Bluewater. Welcome. And Oscar Wezenbeek, who's Director Marine, Protective and Yacht, AkzoNobel.
Thank you.
Welcome. So, gentlemen, now we're going to hear a bit about how you work with sustainability and not least the plastic issue. I know, Günther and Fares, that you two are doing a joint project on this issue. Could you tell us what it is you're doing?
The idea came from Procter & Gamble, and they started with the NGOs for the collection of the material, and we then developed the bottle and processed it and tried to make out of this collection, of this mixed plastic collection, we tried to make out bottles, and this we did successfully together, and I think the important one was what Procter did in marketing.
So it's a shampoo bottle, Fares?
Yes.
Yeah, Mia, let me just position it. Plastic for us sits within a broader framework. We look at it from a holistic sustainability program that we've been working on it since several decades, before anybody or many people in the industry never used the word sustainability, so more than 3 to 4 decades ago. So we recently announced our renewed sustainability responsibility for consumption, which what we call Ambition 2030, whereby it sits on 4 pillars. It sits on the brand and the power of the brand and the responsibility the brand can communicate with consumer to inspire and enable better behavior. And the second pillar is about the supply chain footprint. The third pillar is about society, you know, the industry, NGOs, external foundation. And the last one, and a very important one, is our employees. So over the last several years, we've been working on this program. So for instance, today, 86% of our packaging globally is recyclable. By end of this year, we will have more than 25% within our packaging is PCR, what we call post-consumer recycled. We have been working on that for several years because PCR, if you think about within the industry, it needs less energy. It consumes less than, it emits less than 60% of carbon dioxide within the production cycle. But back to the point of Günther, when we get together, you know, the essence first is when you embark on a transformational thing, it will take 3 very important vectors, which we went about it when we worked on the Head and Shoulders. The first one is sensitize. If you don't understand and call out the issue, you will never know what you're trying to solve for. So the first thing is to understand what's happening out there, how the world is contaminating, how the ocean is being contaminated. So with the work we do with NGOs, with foundation like Ellen MacArthur, we started by first sensitizing internally our P&G employees and externally our stakeholder that we have an issue at stake. And then the second one is declare the strategic intent that we will work on recycling packaging. When you do that, when you declare that intent, you trigger innovation. You push your people to work on innovation. And then, of course, the third one is the partnership, you know, with companies like TerraCycle, for instance, that went on the beaches of Northern Europe, had more than 1,000 people to collect plastic from the beaches. We had company like Suez who helped us to refine it. And then we have phenomenal partner like APLA who helped us, create that bottle, which was not easy. And then, of course, you need to put it on the shelf. So in France, within Carrefour retailer, we were able to launch this product. And it's amazing, when you take such a bold decision for an iconic bottle, it's very well known. Head & Shoulders, one of the most sold shampoos in the world, and when you have a white and blue bottle, and suddenly you put on the shelf gray, you take the risk that you lose your brand equity. But it's phenomenal what this message set for the industry as a role model, that we can make a change even with iconic brand that we believe if we touch them, we might lose, commercially. It turned out to be completely different.
So it's a success commercially?
Well, we're not driving it from the gray. The commercial success by itself, Head & Shoulders, is very successful commercially. But more importantly, brand has a moral obligation to inspire and enable consumer and change their behavior. That is at the core of this change.
Günther, Fares said it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to make this bottle. What was the biggest challenges in the work?
Yeah, the biggest challenge was it was a kindly mixed type of material. We had to adapt our processes to run it, and as far as mentioned, also the color who turned out, and to make it more or less always in the same color is not so easy. But finally, I think it was a huge success because we could really show up this we could do easily and fast, and recycling for us is definitely a route we have to go, and this we could show to the market.
So, Oscar, what is AkzoNobel doing when it comes to innovation, sustainability, not least plastics? Maybe we should start with plastics.
Well, I think the journey starts with innovation in general, and it touches everybody on a very personal level. And for me, what really drives the message home 8 years ago, when I got told by the WWF that we at the moment consume 1.6 Earths in 1 year. So already now, if you look at your watch, we already have consumed everything the company and the Earth has to generate. And if everybody would have the same lifestyle as in America, we actually would already now need 4 or 5 planets. The population is growing from 8 billion to 10 billion people around the world. I myself live in Asia. I see middle class coming up, and everybody aspires a certain lifestyle. And it's absolutely clear, and it has to touch yourself personally, that something has to change. So that innovation, how do you make it happen? So we have a long legacy in our company, how to make innovation work, and it starts really setting a bold target. And setting a target is not good enough. So we really committed ourselves by 2050 to be completely carbon neutral, and we're already making good progress along that way, but you also have to be very public about it. If it's an internal target, you don't see the behavior change, you really have to set a public target there. And then we have basically a couple of pillars which drives the behavior change, both inside and outside of the company. We put our money where our mouth is, so senior executives all across the board, we are incentivized also on whether or not we achieve the sustainability targets that we make. Every time we make a research decision, we also spend 2 billion euros in research every year. We will have a matrix that not only looks at the financial metrics, but also at the social metrics, on what it does with people and also what it does with the environment. And only when it touches all those 4 points, you will actually see a decision being pulled through. So, and over time, you see that more of our products in our portfolio have eco-benefits. Already more than half of our portfolio offer eco-friendly benefits. And in the area of marine, we now come out with products that are not only clean, but also biocide-free. And we already have more than 5,000 vessels sailing with Intersleek, and that has generated 3 billion euro in fuel savings for the industry. So that's a good example where we see innovation moving forward.
And you're also part of ocean cleanup.
Yeah, we feel that it's not only good that we actually bring solutions to the market that offer better sustainability moving forward. The team AkzoNobel boat was the second boat together with Tide of Plastics to have kit installed so we measure how much plastics and the water composition is. But we also joined up with the ocean cleanup that actually set us targets to clean up the ocean of the plastic. So you've seen this morning the heat map. So one of the biggest garbage patches is actually in the Great Pacific. So if we now are in the process of deploying all the assets, we hope that within 2030 we will have cleaned up half of the plastic in the Great Pacific garbage patch. So that's a great undertaking.
By 2030, half of the plastics will be gone.
Yes.
Good. We sincerely, yes. Anders, you work with water. Your mission is to provide drinkable water, and you are providing the drinkable water in the village, right?
Correct, yes.
So we've heard that microplastics contaminates also the drinking water. What are you doing to actually raise awareness on this question and to change it?
So I think our vision is about water without plastics, and for us that means two things. It means oceans without plastic pollution, and it means drinking water without microplastics and other contaminants. We think those two questions are interrelated, because the reason for people using single-use bottles to drink is because there's no other means of drinking water, and you have to hydrate. So we believe that by taking action, by providing solutions which is tangible, we can actually change a behavior where we use single-use plastic bottles. So it's going back to what we as consumers do every day. And as Mr. Eliasson said before, we believe that no one can do everything, but if everyone just stops buying single-use plastic bottles and instead carry this one, that's a good start.
And how do you make that happen?
Well, I mean, by being here, by being out, talking about it, educating people how this is connected to the problem, and also providing the solutions. So for us, it's about bringing out the clear, I mean, you have hopefully at least seen the water stations out in the village and tried the water, but it's about providing that so that people can have that opportunity to make that choice.
I can actually jump in because we were together in the Hong Kong summit, and our Chinese office actually changed over to their system.
They changed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a concrete effect of...
That's good, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good example. So the previous business panel, they were talking about business as actually a driver for change. I guess you are all into that. What can you do to even more drive innovation, sustainability, not least in the plastic area? Günther?
In our case, recycling is definitely a very important topic. We are invested, we have 3 plants worldwide. We are invested since 2004 in recycling. And in Europe, we just built up the last 5 years 2 plants, and it was a difficult time the last years when the oil price dropped and the recycling material was more expensive than the new material. But now, the last 3 years, 2 years, you can really feel that the whole industry is interested and the recycling is picking up. And for us, I think that's definitely a solution. It's on the table. We know it's working not only for the bottle. We did a lot of other examples, and we have to start from designing doing the right things from the design. Also for recycling, we have to use. We are only using 2 materials. We are only using polyolefins and PET. That's also important, as we heard before, to separate these different type of plastics. It's a problem. So we can do a lot more, but I think that's definitely very important that we can show and we do it ourselves so that we can drive the recycling content.
Boris, what challenges do you see ahead in going through with this work?
Well, first thing is we need all to be humble and admit no one have the answer to all the questions. So staying and living in a silo will not take us far. So the most important element is transformative partnership. It's connecting externally because, you know, every industry has got its own challenge. But when you connect, and like ourselves and people like, you know, exceptional, like APLA or Pure Cycle, they are startup working on real breakthrough innovation in recycling, or connecting with NGOs or the Ellen MacArthur, you find solution. But the problem, Mia, is not about the technological solution. We will find them sooner or later. A lot of them are happening. The problem is consumer behavior. And that's where we have a moral imperative as companies to drive through the brand, the voice of our brand, a respectable and then sensible, you know, behavior by every consumer of how we use the very, what we call finite resource in a world where consumption is increasing exponentially.
So the technology is not the problem, it's already there, as you say. It's humans that are the problem. We are the problem as consumers. Do you agree to that?
I agree. I think we are the problem, and we are also the solution. We are the first generation probably seeing what's happening to the oceans. I think the next big thing is that people will start to realize, as we've heard today, what happens to human health when this goes into the water ecosystem and the food value chain. So I think it's about driving the awareness, having like-minded people making a change, like you do, like providing examples of how you can do it. So, yeah, that's basically the fundament to change the consumer behavior. It's about education. That's also, and I must say, I'm impressed by the work that Volvo Ocean Race has done over this campaign. It's been a magnificent platform to communicate a science message to a much broader audience, as Charlie said before, than they would ever have reached before otherwise.
Oscar, coming back to business has actually moved forward quite a few steps the last couple of years. Why is that? Why is business more on the sustainability train now than maybe a decade ago?
I think it's good to realize that sustainability is good business. It's not a contradictory. So one of the big messages I give in all these conferences is it is good business. And you have to find that sweet spot between what makes business sense and what is good for the environment, and only proceed when it touches that sweet spot. And there is a good possibility, and indeed partnerships, you see a fundamental change in the industry of much more partnership. Volvo mentioned it this morning. There's a lot of waste that we can cut out of the value chain. In our case, 90% of what is going wrong, if you like, is either with our suppliers or in the application of our products at the customer. All the waste is being generated in terms of packaging and the like. There we really see more willingness, because actually people see they can make money in the process. And unfortunately, that is an important driver already on the short term to bring change about. But it can be done with the right mindset, absolutely.
So it's actually good for business to be sustainable. But in the short run, Günther and Fares, it can be expensive.
Definitely. Definitely, it can be more expensive, but I think that's also a question of time. I think also legislation will be important. We have to think more in cycles. That means we are talking in our plants, we are talking bottle-to-bottle recycling. For some other, we could easily sell the material into other streams, but we are really talking because we want to show our customer that we can do bottle-to-bottle, but it's a little bit more expensive, but it's not that more that together we cannot afford it.
But at the same time, Mia, we have lots of studies that suggest more than 60% of the consumer are prepared to pay premium for sustainable product. There is another study that suggests that when you compare a non-sustainable product versus sustainable product, the difference in sales is 4%. While true, the technology could be today more expensive, but at the same time, consumers want to have sustainable product, and with time, innovation must find the end, high-performing and affordable.
And then you see in our industry, especially business to business, that we also get new business models as such. It's not only about the products, it's also about the business models. So we were the first to work together with the gold standard to come up with carbon credits for the marine industry. So actually you create another incentive for ship owners to move from biocidal solutions, which are relatively polluting, to completely clean foul release technologies in this area. You see all kind of business model where we have pay for performance schedules, where economic benefits also combined with sustainability solutions. And that is really exciting to see, working with startups. We're one of the founding members of the Sustainable Shipping Initiatives, where we come up with green financing. So we help industry to come over that initial bump, to move to the more sustainable future.
We will talk more about the finance sector in the next panel. So, new collaboration, new partnerships, new business models. Business is moving in the right direction and being actually a driver of the change. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.